XM Studios Swamp Thing is finally in the Secret Sanctuary. Hey guys, welcome back to the Sanctuary. Swamp Thing first appeared over 50 years ago, 1971, in House of Secrets number 92. I had bought a few comics by that point, but I wasn't buying Marvel or DC. I was still in my Archie and Richie Rich phase, so I missed out on his first appearance. In fact, I missed out on his whole first series. It wasn't until 1984, when Alan Moore took over, that Swamp Thing came to my attention, and Alan Moore came to my attention, and Steve Bissett came to my attention, and John Totleben. They were the trifecta. They were three amazing artists and writers who brought this character to life for me in a way I'd never seen in comics before. The art was a brand new style. The writing was somehow literature rather than comics. It was an extraordinary time period in those early 80s with Frank Miller and Alan Moore. So when this came up for pre-order, initially I didn't order it. If you remember, it had a different torso. It had an upright torso. And then you had two portraits. You had a long hair portrait, and then you had a short hair portrait. Well, not a short hair, but like a bald portrait like this one. And fans said, you know what, it's cool, but we kind of want a more traditional Swamp Thing. And so XM's, they stepped up and they brought a second torso in, and everyone went bananas, like, oh my God, that is the Swamp Thing we remember from those 1980s comics by Alan Moore. And it was at that point that I placed my order. So I've been eagerly anticipating it. It comes with a few problems, which breaks my heart, but hopefully they're fixable. So let's take a look at them. All right, the first thing I want to say right off the bat is they only made 238 of the quarter scale Swamp Thing. That is a crazy low number. They made 499 of the 1/6, but only 238 of this quarter scale. It is still available. I bought mine at Spec Fiction Shop. I'm going to put a link to where you can buy yours if you'd like to from Spec Fiction Shop in the description of this video. I don't know how long they'll last, but I'm surprised it's still available. Only 238 for what I think is a pretty awesome statue. It is, I'm not going to say it's larger than I expected because I knew it was going to be large, but it's a big quarter scale. No one's going to accuse this thing of being too small. It is very large. This is that second torso that they brought in, the more hunched over. Really nice portrait with those red eyes. Teeth are done well. I love the varying colors. I mean, he essentially has bark on his back. And then you've got all these branches that look wet, as they would in a swamp. And then on the base, I'm kind of going all over the place here, but I kind of just got this out of the box, so I'm kind of freewheeling it here. You've got this barrel of toxic liquid that's busted open, and a really good, it's hard to see, it's easier to see without the figure on the base. The kind of toxic sludge down there is very realistic looking. Looks really cool. All right, before I go on, I'm going to tell you the few problems that I've had. The first is that right out of the box, I had a broken branch, which broke my heart. So there's like a 4-inch piece broken off right out of the box. And then one of the flowers on this plant, see they got the green flower on top. This one, it's not broken off, it's like the glue failed. So it goes right here. So it needs to be glued back on. I suck at doing any kind of work on statues, so I'm gonna go to Todd at Spec Fiction and say, hey, I'd really like this to be as perfect as it should be coming right out of the box, and see if he can help me fix those problems. The other problem I have is this big branch here does not slot all the way in. You can see the gap there. And this branch wraps all the way around his left leg. So that tissue is there because since it's not slotting in correctly, it'd be rubbing against the back of his leg and I'd probably lose some paint. So I slipped some tissue paper in there to protect it. So I'm going to need some assistance with that too. I've really tried many times to try to get that to slot in correctly, and it just isn't happening. So I'm frustrated about that. I got to be honest with you, it's been a couple of years since I ordered an XM piece. I'm used to unboxing Sideshow pieces or Tweeterhead pieces, which are always quite simple to assemble. This one had, oh my God, I'm not sure how many pieces. Every one of these little twigs or branches, that slots in. That's a magnetic fit there. Here and here and here. There's a whole bunch of them. And then each one of these mushrooms and this plant over here, most of these branches come, individual, have to be slotted in or magnetic. Show you the back here. It's a nice bright green, but there are varying shades of green. It's not all one shade, which I think is really nice. Little butt shot there of Swamp Thing, but I wanted to show you the different colors. The base is quite wide. It's quite substantial. It's probably, looking around my room, the biggest base that I have right now. And I love how his feet and ankles and the bottoms of his legs are brown just from the mud leading up to green. Some people don't like all of this bark or wood, whatever you call it. I've heard comments on Facebook and on Statue Forum. I like it. I think it's really cool. I like the variety that we get with the bark and with the green. He just looks ready for battle. I love that. So obviously, if you're going to use this torso, you probably want to display him high. And I'm going to have him up here. I'm going to remove those two museum pieces and see if I can fit him in next to Batman and Moon Knight, and that'll be my little X-Men shelf. This is one of the reasons I sold my Samurai Deathstroke, was to make room for Swamp Thing. We have Dr. Fate's helmet on the base here on one of these branches. Dr. Fate was absolutely involved in some of the Justice League Dark type stories. I think maybe Swamp Thing number 48 and 49. It might be that storyline. I actually messaged Aang at XM Studios and said, hey, why is Dr. Fate's helmet on the base? And he responded that I should read more comics. So Aang doesn't suffer fools gladly. And he didn't want to say anything beyond that. So I guess I need to read more comics to remember why Dr. Fate's helmet. Maybe I assume there was an issue where they tangled, Swamp Thing and Dr. Fate, and Dr. Fate maybe didn't do so well. That's the implication from having that on the base. So like I said, the base is very large. It's a mixture of, you've got rock here, you've got kind of a slimy guy here. How cool is that? And then that toxic sludge. And the mushrooms. They all look great. And look at the water inside there. Doesn't that look real? I'm really impressed with that effect. They did a really good job on that. And then of course you got the frog. I feel like I want to name that frog. Maybe Kermit. I have sometimes regretted not picking up the Sideshow Swamp Thing, the one that was made of vinyl. I did see that in San Diego. I saw the prototype in San Diego, and it did look really cool. But I do prefer this pose, so I'm happy that I waited. And this one actually wasn't that much more than that. I think the Sideshow Swamp Thing was 800 if I remember correctly. And I think this was 979. And I think my shipping on this was like 125. I thought it would be worse. Sometimes, or lately, shipping's been atrocious, so I was really nervous that it would be very bad. But I was pleased with that, even though 125 is a lot of money. All right, let's look at the other torso. All right, here's the upright torso. This is the one that you might want to use if you're not displaying this piece high, if you're putting him on a kind of an eye level shelf or lower. It is kind of dramatic with that left arm raised up and the right arm reaching out a little bit there. It's interesting, this torso has no extra pieces. It's all one solid piece. Nothing keys in at all except for the portrait. Whereas on the more hunched over torso, there are many things that key in, many branches. It's a nice portrait. It looks good. It looks as fierce as the other one. Let me give you a long shot of this pose. So with this torso, it's 2 feet tall, 24 inches. And again, you know, I'm not sure if the camera's capturing it, but it's a large piece. And frankly, this is nicer than I expected, this torso. I'm intrigued. I'm pretty sure I'll go with the hunched over torso just because that is so much what I remember from the comics. But this has a great deal of presence. So I will not be surprised if many collectors go this route. Give you a rear view. Looks nice. So they sort of hid this. It's not a seam, but they sort of hid where it connects by putting a root along the bottom of the portrait. So these are quite flexible. So I assume that's some sort of PVC. So you don't have to worry too much about that breaking. If it was polystone, it'd be a nightmare. But that looks pretty great. All right, let's try the long-haired portrait. So I'm really impressed with the different looks we're getting. This looks totally different than the others. And look at that mouth, look at the teeth and the gums. Pretty impressive. This could definitely be displayed low. He's kind of looking up a little bit. The long hair is interesting. It's funny, I totally assumed that this torso would go right back in the box and into storage. But I don't know, I might want to keep it handy just to change it up every once in a while because these look cool, they look very dramatic. I don't know, this kind of provides almost a little movement with the way his hair is flowing off to his right, which is always nice in a statue. If a sculptor can create movement, that's a big plus. That adds a lot of drama, I think. How in the world can there only be 238 of these? It makes no sense to me. I mean, considering pricing from, if you look at pricing from all companies these days, $9.79 for a quarter scale with 2 torsos and 3 portraits does not seem like a bad deal to me. It really doesn't. So that's how he'd look if you had him on a low shelf. That's kind of neat. And if you had him up above, really, really nice. I have some Decisions to make. I'm impressed. Just a great statue. Give you another look at that kind of toxic sludge in there. I don't know how they did that wet or water effect so well. That's really impressive. What a great piece. I wanted to show you that XM also provided a base for your alternate torso. So you can display the alternate right next to the statue. I love when companies do this. They really need to provide this for even just alternate portraits. There should be some kind of stand, but especially when you've got an alternate torso like this, this is just awesome. It's like having a second statue. By the way, because we had 2 torsos and 3 portraits, this is the biggest box I've ever received for a quarter scale piece. It felt like it was almost as big as the Legendary Beast Thor box. It was huge, and if you believe the UPS weight, it was 79 pounds for a quarter scale piece. So prepare yourself for that. I actually, I'm on the 3rd floor here. And so I unboxed this piece down in our courtyard outside and brought it up piece by piece. I was not going to carry a 79-pound box, large box, up 2 flights of stairs, not a chance. But anyway, that's just a really great extra. I know Legendary Beast is doing the same thing for the Hulk they've got coming out. So yeah, totally love it. It looks great. All right, so do I think you should add this to your collection? If you're a huge Swamp Thing fan, absolutely. So it comes in both quarter scale and 1/6 scale. They are both in stock at Spec Fiction Shop. I will put links to both scales in the description for this video. So if you want to help the channel, please use those links. If you don't want to help the channel, just go straight to Spec Fiction Shop. And like I said, they're both still available. Only 238 of the quarter scale. That is a ridiculously low edition size for a statue or for a character that doesn't get very much love in quarter scale. We have that maquette from Sideshow. I think that's it for quarter scale, unless there's some customs out there. So prepare yourself if you're not usually an XM buyer. There are a lot of pieces. You have to be very careful. Some of the branches wrap around his legs. So assembly is, you have to be a little more patient than you would with a Sideshow piece or a Tweeterhead piece, but it's worth it. To me, it was very similar to putting together the Samurai Poison Ivy. That's a similar deal where branches are wrapping around her and you have to be ultra careful. I used the XM video, assembly video, when I put this together tonight, which is kind of cumbersome because you're always having to hit pause and go back to see, where did he get that out of the box and where did he put that onto the statue? And it's kind of cumbersome, but it worked. But it took me a while, so be prepared for that. It's absolutely worth it. I'm hoping he's going to fit on that top shelf behind me, and I'm very excited. Leave comments. I want to know what you guys think of him. I don't know if any of you guys have ordered him, if you're getting him. But yeah, he's totally worth it. As for what's coming next for me, I have paid shipping for both the Queen Studios Gal Gadot Wonder Woman and the Queen Studios Museum Wonder Woman. So I assume they're coming soon. I paid shipping on both of those weeks ago. So I expect they're probably either docking soon or going through customs or whatever it is that they do. That's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the review. And like I said, comment and subscribe if you haven't already. Have a good night. Take care.